Hey there. I'm gonna do a live reaction to the GameStop earnings. The stock's moving. Let's look at the chart. We're in after hours here. This is the 1 minute bar chart. By the way, I'm Asif Khan, CEO, editor in chief of Shacknews. Uh, yeah, we're live. My watch just told me we're live, so I think we're live. The stock appears to be moving. I don't see any actual news out yet. Let's see if Twitter has anything. Nope. This is just people trying to get ahead of the news or trying to trade. Um, I will say technically the stock is in a weird place right now. Uh, I know it seems odd, but if you look at the yearly chart, the level to watch is 27.65. We are currently $1 below that right now. Let's go back to the 1 minute chart. It's moving violently though, so who knows? Uh, I mean, it's at the lows of the after hour session right now, but I don't think we have the numbers out yet. And if we do, if you want to link them to me, that would be great. I'm going to keep refreshing their website. Yep, here we go. The results are out. They missed on revenue again. They were profitable again. So this is a mixed quarter. Gonna jump into. Oh, I have echo going on here, don't I? I'm sorry. Anyway, sorry about that. Yeah, they're out with numbers. Let me. I'm gonna jump in my Discord. Because it's easier to talk to my staff than to try to. Hey guys, you're on stream. Just letting you know. Hey. It's easier just to jump in here. The numbers are out. It's a revenue miss. It appears to be an earnings beat. I just need to get the earnings number. Yeah, they turned in a profit of 4 cents per share. So that thing that Ryan Cohen claimed, it does appear to be happening. He's focused on profitable revenue. So yeah, let's get our first headline out of here. This is Q3 2024. Earnings results. They missed the revenue expectations. This might be too long. If someone wants to narrow this down for me, you can. But I'm thinking GameStop Q3 2024 earnings results miss revenue expectations despite reporting another quarterly profit. Okay, maybe like just yeah, and maybe in spite of yeah, maybe just do in spite of quarterly profit. See, let me get you the numbers, Donovan, if you're taking this one. So they're expected to lose 6 cents per share. So these were the expectations. Actual EPS of 0.04 per share. Actual revenue. This is the problem at GameStop, though. So their revenues are declining still. But yeah, I'll bring back up the chart now. Sorry, folks at home. There you go. So this is the 1 minute chart we're looking at. You can see it's sold off on the revenue news, and then it's kind of coming back on the earnings news. The level to watch is 27.65. I mentioned it earlier. It is the high of last year, and it's where a RevStrat year to the upside kicks in. So we're still within that range. Also, the year is running out, so this was the time to hear some good news out of them. And I don't know if this is good enough. Lucci, I am no longer heavily in this stock. I got out earlier this year out of my largest positions because I disagree with how the management is operating. I did own it for about 4 years there, and I had actually been talking about it. You can find an article on Shacknews, I think it's 2018, where I'm like, either GameStop stock is cheap or I'm an idiot. That proved to be pretty prescient. But yeah, no, I'm not super into this stock right now. Although it does appear to be getting back above that level I was talking about. If it does that, you're gonna have a technical reason to buy the stock. But I think it almost hit it. Yeah, it got to 27.80 and then it turned around almost instantly. So there's a technical reason why this stock is going to go up or down. Yeah, it's hitting its head right on that level. Uh, this isn't magic or anything. I'm using last year's high as the number. So that is right here. It was 27.65. So if you go to the 1 minute chart, yeah, we're dancing right there. That's the number to watch. I'm gonna dig more into this earnings result because we usually have some other stuff that comes out of this. They have $4.6 billion of stock, or sorry, not of stock, of cash. So I think that's gonna be the thing that keeps them from like going to zero, because it's what about a third of their stock is just in cash, or maybe half, depending on what day it is. And they don't really have any meaningful debt anymore. But yeah, the revenues were down almost 20% year over year for the quarter. For the full year, their gross profit is still down. For the full year, they have not made or lost any money. That's just for these first 3 quarters. We still have their Christmas quarter coming up, which tends to be their best quarter. But this isn't bad by any stretch of the imagination. We tend to look at their cash flow. They had positive cash flow from operations during the quarter. That's interesting. I wonder what's causing this. I think it's they've done some drastic cost cutting. You know, they fired a ton of people. Yeah, for the 39 weeks ended October 28th last year, they spent $964 million on selling general administrative expenses. That's down to $847.9 million this year. So I'd say that's a meaningful decrease in expenses for the year. They're still just holding leases to expiration. I don't think that's not a story. Oh, what do we usually write about, guys? It's usually the DRS number, but that's not disclosed in this. That comes out in the 8K or 10K. But yeah, for the 13 weeks ended, 6 cents. Mm-hmm. Well, you got people reading that article, huh, Donovan? I think there's more interest around this stock these days than there have been in recent years, or yeah, at least recent months. But yeah, if you're here, give us a follow. We tend to stream all sorts of earnings calls. Let's see. I don't know. I'm not. Nothing about this is like, oh wow. And also, like, I don't know. Let's see. Does Ryan Cohen even issue a statement in the quarter? No, he doesn't. Because why would he? He's just the CEO of a company. I don't know. I don't trust him at all. I don't know why anyone would. It's the way he's acted this year. Yeah, as usual, the company will not be holding a conference call because that's what good companies do. I mean, like, even Boeing does conference calls, man, and their planes have been killing people for the past few years. Allegedly. There's 437 million shares as opposed to 305 million shares this time last year, which is why I don't really give a crap about this company anymore. He handed over a bunch of shares to shorts instead of causing a squeeze earlier this year. So yeah, I'm not looking to make excuses for billionaires who act like that. Yeah, I don't. It's a pretty boring company at this point. What's that? The card grading thing. What's that company called? TSA or CSA? PSA. Yeah, they don't even mention that in their. Yeah, they don't mention Pokemon in their earnings report either. So I don't know if that stuff is starting to show up in these numbers. I guess it would be in the collectibles revenue number. Collectibles revenue is down year over year for the quarter and for the year. Actually, every revenue segment at GameStop is down year over year. So that's hardware and accessories, that's software, and that's collectibles. Yeah. What's interesting, though, Donovan, is that while revenues are down, nearly 20%, they're profitable now. So Ryan Cohen's statement at the shareholder meeting was that I want to focus on profitable revenue segments. So if that is his vision, maybe that $200 million that disappeared in revenue wasn't going to help them on the profit side. But my point is that if your revenues keep declining, there's going to be a point at which you can't cut costs. There's not another Game Informer that you can shutter, right? Like you already did that. So the question becomes like, what's next for this company? How do you grow revenue? How do you maintain a sustainable income statement? Like, is this something where is GameStop going to start reporting profits for each of their 4 quarters? Because that's different. Then also the other question that like a good company would probably address, this is not a good company, they would say something about why they raised the $4 billion of cash, like what they plan on doing with it. And so far, I don't think we've heard a single thing about what they plan on doing with the money. Which is, it feeds into this crap that you see on the internet where it's just pure speculation and, oh, they're going to buy this. I don't know if you guys remember, I think it was last quarter, there was a rumor that they were going to buy Unity. They can't even afford Unity. Unity's bigger than they are. But when you leave it up to the jaboofers on the internet, they can just say whatever. Yeah, Unity's a $10 billion stock right now. I want to say GameStop's maybe around there. Yeah, 12 billion. But, they have $4 billion of cash, 4.6 billion of cash. They can't buy Unity. I just searched for GME, and we are in the second spot in their news carousel on Google. So shout out to Satya Nadella for not nerfing our search results. Who cares about revenue? I don't know, man. What happens when revenue goes to zero? What are your margins? And margins are higher on collectibles than hard. I agree with that. The moving away from hardware and software is not what I'm talking about. I'm saying if most of your revenue, which is true, most of their revenue comes from most of their revenue comes from hardware. It was in the quarter, $417 million out of the $860 million comes from hardware, which has god awful margins. Software was $271.8 million, which has bad margins. Collectibles were $171 million. That's down from $177 last quarter, like last year, the year ago quarter. So if this PSA was going so well, it's at the expense of some other collectibles. I guess my point is, like, for GameStop to get back to where it was just last year, ignoring, like, say hardware and software go to zero over time, you have to get collectibles revenue up to $1 billion per quarter, and it's currently at 171. So I guess what I'm saying is you need to grow revenue at some point, dude. You need to grow revenue at some point, man. That's all I'm saying. Like, you can keep cutting costs, but at some point, the only way for this stock to go up is for the revenue story to change. I'm not making some kind of statement on the company or anything. Yeah, no, I get it. PSA is super early. And I've been saying this for years, that I thought collectibles was the only way forward. Because collectibles revenue, that's the kind of shit where someone sees something in the window at GameStop, it's a plushie or something, and they run in there and they buy it, and those things are, closer to 30 or 20% margins, where you're lucky if you get 5% on software and hardware. I think that the problem still at GameStop is the used software market is not coming back. And I know they've kind of embraced the retro thing. Oh, by the way, it just went above. Nope, now it's back below. This is getting comical, guys. That 2765 level I mentioned, it's been breached and then sold off from it like 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 times here in the last 20 minutes. That's the technical level to watch. I'll bring up the yearly chart again. Why do I keep talking about 2765? It was the high of last year, and it's where the whole short squeeze really took off earlier this year. Whoever's trading this in after hours really wants to keep it below that number. And this is a yearly signal, and we're in the last month of the year, so we're seeing a fight right at that level. I find that more interesting than the earnings report, to be honest. But yeah. I don't really see any I don't really see any kind of crazy breakouts here, though. I guess the thing I can look for is their SEC filing, if that comes out soon. Yep, it looks like we have a 10Q. So TJ, if you want to stand by for the DRS number, that might be the next article that we write. Let's see. It's back above that level again. Okay, I got the DRS number. It's 71 million shares. Approximately 16% of the stock is held by registered shareholders. So TJ, I know we have we've done that article before. I don't know if you could dig it up. We could probably just use the same headline template. Let's see. Yeah, I got it. So the DRS number went down during the quarter. It was 72.1 or sorry, 72.8 last quarter. It's down to 71 million. And that's as of December. I got the headline coming, TJ. I honestly think those might be the only two breakouts from this. Yeah, we're back above 2765 in after hours, so I think technically tomorrow could be interesting in the stock. I think it's more good news than bad, honestly, but I, as someone who values hearing from the CEOs of the companies I invest with, I think Ryan Cohen refusing to do earnings conference calls is a negative. Because to your point, we want to know what they're doing with the $4.6 billion of cash. If he's just sitting on it, that seems like a really foolish way to use your money. Then again, it also provides a cushion. Like, you can't short the stock down to $10 because they have basically $10 worth of cash on the balance sheet now. So it's not that I think the stock's going down. We need a catalyst to go higher. It's not just going to do it just because. They filed an 8K as well. Let's see what's in here. They fired Deloitte and Touche and they hired KPMG. That's nothing. Yeah, that's kind of a nothing burger. Yeah, we're above 2765 right now, so I think that's honestly more interesting than most of the stuff that came out of this. Initial filing by a director. Oh yeah, this is that Daniel Moore, or sorry, no, Nat Turner became a board member, or is becoming a board member. That's the guy from PSA Donovan. I think that's a big deal that they're having the head of PSA join the board of GameStop. It's entirely possible. Maybe they buy PSA. Because PSA is a private company, right, Tom? It's not like huge or anything. Yeah, it's independently owned. They're owned by a company called Collectors Universe. Hey, that is... Oh, it used to be a stock. It got taken private. Huh. CLCT stock deal. What happened to that? They got acquired for $92 in cash in 2021. So that was about $700 million is what they got acquired for. GameStop could afford that. They could acquire that. Wow. We got GameStop back above 28 now and after hours. Let's see what the Jaboofers on Twitter are saying. Up we go, GME baby. Fresh highs after hours. Yeah, that's no. I think the big takeaway is that they turn to profit again. These tend not to be quarters where they're profitable. The third and second quarters tend to be down times of the year for them, so that they're turning a profit here is pretty impressive from an operational standpoint. But I maintain that this can't continue. They have to turn around the revenue, and I see no evidence of that yet. And it's like multiple years of revenue declines now. It's not just one. I think that's the thing that would concern me is that. And there's also just the secular trend. Like, I don't know. I have a feeling that they're not going to get an allocation of many Switch 2s compared to when, Nintendo's like, we're going to stop scalpers. The number one thing I would do if I wanted to prevent scalping was to not give GameStop many, because their website is complete crap. And easily manipulated. I think so, Donovan. Because it goes back to that point where I was talking with the gentleman in chat here. But like it's like 60% of their revenue comes from hardware. So if you don't get a large allocation of the biggest hardware release of the year, yeah, that's going to hurt you. Is it existential at this point? No, because, okay, now the stock's is set $29. I don't know if you guys remember. I said $27.65 was the level to watch, and now we're above that materially. I think shareholders or whoever's reacting in after hours, computers, whatever, It's the earnings. I think that's the story we're looking at here. No analysts were expecting a profit this quarter. I think analyst estimates were for a loss of 6 cents, and then they came in with a profit of 4 cents. So yeah, I don't know if I didn't make that entirely clear in the headline channel down, but yeah, it's a 10-cent beat. It's a 4-cent profit versus a 6-cent loss expectation. And they missed revenue by $18 million, which isn't the end of the world, but it's still not good. And yeah, like to your point, Don, like I don't know if it's existential, but for the, what was it, I think they say 38 weeks. For the 39 weeks ending November 2nd, collectibles revenue is $447 million. Hardware was $1.4 billion. So it's like, that's a lot of Funko Pops. I don't know if they have it. But that being said, like maybe this is a company that is just going to have less revenue and more profits, and they're going to be more laser focused on operational execution. But I do just wonder, like, how many quarters can they cut costs before they run out of costs to cut? And the thing that, like, I was hoping they would do that they didn't, they're just kind of letting their crappy leases play out. They're not terminating leases early. So, like, there's the worst GameStop in Canton, and then there's, like, the good GameStop in Canton, and then there's the other one that used to be a Funko Land. Like, does Canton need 3 GameStops? Probably not. But they have these leases. So instead of cutting off the leases early and losing more money, they're just kind of letting them die. And a few quarters ago, I ran some numbers just on their existing leases and their lease accounting. They have about 2 years of just letting the poor performing stores kind of roll off of their balance sheet. So I guess my point is, it's just, this is no longer a fast money trade. I think it's like, you're in this for a turnaround, and it's going to take a while. Oh, they did buy they bought $29 million of marketable securities during the quarter. So they did put some of that money to work, but they made $273 million from marketable securities during oh no, sorry. That's for the 39 week. Sorry. They bought 21 million of marketable securities during the quarter. That's it. They have $4.6 billion, and they bought $21 million of treasuries. Why? So yeah, that gave them negative investing cash flow. Positive operating cash flow, driven by positive net income, and then positive financing cash flow because they issued 20 million shares at a terrible price. It doesn't matter. Stock keeps going up now. Shareholders are happy. So I guess there's a little bit for everyone here. If you're a bear, you can focus on the revenue story. If you're a bull, you can focus on their cash balance, which sits at $4.6 billion. They have $32 million of marketable securities there too. Inventory's down to only $830 million. Yeah, we're back above 30 after hours now. Right here. That's where I told you. 2765 was the place to watch. It's almost like trading on the market is governed by computers, you guys. I'll just say this, like, I may sound neutral or whatever on this. I do still own the stock in several accounts, and I have some call options. So I'm on the side of GameStop shareholders still, and I understand the populist movement that started in 2020, but I think it's been perverted by the media and shills and people who are trying to sell you stuff. Like, I'm not telling you, hey, subscribe to my newsletter or pay me this much and I'll give you advice. It's like, I'm just here telling you what I think. And you can criticize my thoughts, you can do whatever you want with them, but it's free and I'm not selling you anything. Might be something to think about next time you trust someone on a Discord or Twitter. Do you guys see what happened to the Haktua girl's cryptocurrency? She might go to jail. That was pretty wild that she went from like meme girl to podcast host and hanging out with Shaquille O'Neal, and now she might just go to jail. It's a wild ride. Yeah. She was another signal. I didn't. I ignored so many signals this year that that were just staring me in the face. But I really think it all began with Pat McAfee getting signed by Disney. That was like ushering in an era of just stupidity. Man, this is a boring quarter. You have 4.6. Why would you kill Game Informer? That's every time I look at this fucking company's assets now, I'm like, what were they thinking? Yeah. Yeah. And erase the website. That's insane. That's like so bad for the internet. Like I don't understand why they did that. Someone would have bought it. Someone would have bought Game Informer if it went for sale. I think Future probably would have jumped on it because they have a publishing arm still for magazines. But like, to not even try, that's insane. And like you said, I think it was spiteful, which is just stupid. I do not want a CEO acting out of spite. I mean, we've seen what happens with Elon when he does that. Maybe you can just buy the presidency someday, Ryan Cohn. Who knows? Let's see. Is Roaring Kitty hasn't tweeted? Nope. A lot of people have been obsessing over his. I don't know if you guys saw this. I'll put it in our general Slack chat. He posted a Time magazine cover. I don't know if you guys remember this one, but it was the year that they picked You. It was like You. Yeah. So congratulations, Diamond. You won. But because Roaring Kitty is a troll and a memester, the major change he made here, it's 69 seconds into the video. And the video is 420. That's how long the video is. So people are deciphering that to mean all sorts of things. And I don't even know if this guy owns shares of GameStop. We have no evidence that he does. We have no evidence that he doesn't, but he kind of... We know that he bought a similar amount of Chewy stock the week of the GameStop shareholder meeting, so if you start putting the pieces together, it's possible he's not a shareholder right now. But everyone wants to believe that he is. How many people did it and still nothing? What are you talking about, Lucci? And yeah, thank you for the follow, Manidas. Sorry, Lucci, I'm missing the context of what you're saying there. How many people did it and still nothing? Are you talking about buying the stock? I mean, there's been some huge moves because of the people, but at this point, he's deluded all of us. I don't really get shareholders defending Ryan Cohen here. It doesn't really make much sense to me. But we're in that era, right? Where just people defend billionaires like they're their parents or something. 5 consecutive minutes of down moves in GameStop. The world's over. I don't know. Maybe the computers are taking some gains. Shout out to the computer that bought at $25.67 and sold at $30.99 and is probably going to buy it back here in a few minutes. Oh, the Haktua girl. Okay, sorry. Yeah, Lucci doesn't think she'll go to jail. How many people did it and still nothing? Yeah. It's almost like having unregulated securities is a bad idea. But it just depends, man. It depends what kind of SEC we have going forward. Because Gary Gensler at the SEC was trying to regulate crypto offerings as securities. They actually took some L's earlier this year when it came to what was it, Solana, and what was it, the U.S. dollar coin, whatever the hell that is. Yeah. Yeah, GameStop's up 6% on the day now. This would be the time where we'd be like, hey, stay tuned for the conference call, but there's no conference call. So, I don't. The other thing that's bad about how they report their revenue now, they don't break out pre-owned versus new anymore. So we have no idea what percent's coming from new and what percent's coming from used. But it's safe to say that the margins on used are better, right? They also don't tell us what the margins are on their different segments. They don't give us inner segment profitability stats. So all we have are, we know what percent of sales these things are. But I think Nintendo Switch 2 is an opportunity, but also it could be a sign of the times. If they don't, like, if Nintendo's like, go to Nintendo.com to pre-order the Switch 2, I think Best Buy and Walmart and GameStop will take a hit. I don't know who else. Target, right? Target would be another one. And yeah, their software sales also are pre-owned and new combined. As for collectibles, they're not saying anything about them being pre-owned yet, even though I think it stands to reason that cards would be pre-owned in some cases, like they're buying cards. Diamond, do you actually have a Pokemon card collection or no? Mm-hmm. If you did, would you go to GameStop to sell them? Yeah, like eBay. From what I've seen, they're the worst in the industry. I mean, it's the GameStop way. Buy things. Uh, Targaryen Tantrum. Overall thoughts on the earnings results? Um, Good question. I I think it's fine. It's a revenue miss, but it's an earnings beat, which is almost identical to last quarter. Um, I'm concerned about the revenue. If the revenue keeps declining, I am concerned. Um, but it does appear that they are focused on profitability right now. But at some point, I mentioned this earlier, so I'm sorry if I'm repeating myself to people who are already watching, but like at some point, they're going to run out of costs to cut, and they're going to have to grow revenue if they want to stay profitable or grow profits. So like when you're trading somewhere in the 200s for a PE ratio, uh, you need to grow earnings. And at some point, you have to increase revenue to do that. And maybe this whole PSA collaboration and the Pokemon cards thing will be that revenue segment. But right now, for the for the first 39 months of the year, um, the revenue's coming from hardware still, all these years later. Like they still sell more hardware than they do software. It was for the first 39 weeks of the year, $1.4 billion of their sales, of their $2.4 billion, came from hardware. $719 million came from software. Not from software, the Elden Ring devs. And then, yeah, collectibles revenue is $447 million. So everyone likes to point at collectibles, but it's not the, yeah, I'm not gonna comment on crypto. It's not really my space. I don't really understand it. I'm an idiot when it comes to crypto. But when it comes to collectibles, they would have to increase their sales by like, I don't know, 500% to really to account for what appears to be a constant decline in hardware and software sales. I think a used hardware, like retro hardware, makes more sense than trying to focus on being a like a new hardware sales outlet, because the margins on new hardware are pretty bad anyway, and it seems like first parties are going to start selling directly to customers. So yeah, I do think becoming a collectibles retailer makes sense, but also like they're in so many malls, they need to become like a place where kids want to go to try out games. And I know that it's not that hard to get like, I don't know, a Nintendo Switch kiosk in there or something, but like, you know, being able to hang out in a GameStop and not necessarily buy things, I think would be interesting. And then maybe embrace your card, like this card effort that's going on. You could embrace that and start holding like tournaments and stuff in some of the bigger stores. But yeah, I'm yeah, you know, you're right that they could have just bought a bunch of Bitcoin with their cash and probably made more money than they would have doing any other business. But at some point, I think, I don't know, you know, I'm not going to comment on crypto. It's going to go up forever. I'm sure it'll be fine. Yeah, it is declining again. This was a technical breach of the 2765 level that happened at about 4:30, and it went to the moon. And now it's digesting it when people realize that there's not really anything crazy in this report. The DRS number decreased, and they did report what I would consider a surprise profit. But I think there's enough on both sides where the revenue is the negative side of this quarter, the earnings are the positive side of this quarter, and the stock chart is looking better in after hours. But we'll see what happens. I also just want to point out, like, anyone who's like, oh, it's the mother of all short squeezes. I own stocks that have higher short interest than GameStop. Let's see, what do we got? Swings to a profit despite... Wow, that's almost identical to our headline, Investopedia. Way to go. Now, this is backwards looking because the government and the SEC don't think that we should know real-time short interest data. It's weird. Yeah, you're talking about 7% of shares outstanding, 8.5% of the float. So you have 8.5% held by institutions. That's the same amount that's held short. Or sorry, insiders. Institutions own 28.7%. And then I think they said on their 10Q, 10Q that their registered holders of the stock comprise 16% of outstanding shares. I completely agree, Tantrum. The sitting on cash, I think sitting on cash provides them a cushion, like where it would be stupid to short them down to $10, but at the same time, if you don't do anything with it, you're just being wasteful. And my whole thing is like, you screwed me over, man. Like, why am I going to trust you not to screw me over again? Like, we were at $60 in pre-market when they announced that first secondary this year. And then we even got back into almost to 50, and then they announced another secondary. So yeah, what's the point of holding on to $4.6 billion? It's so that they can sit on it, and if they have negative quarters, it's not like there's not a going concern. Or they're fine. But it's one thing to not be dead. It's another thing to actually be thriving. And I don't think this company's thriving. It's just kind of sitting here doing nothing. And yeah, there's the PSA stuff and the working with them on the board now and whatever. But I guess next quarter will tell us more. It's their most important quarter. It's their Christmas quarter. And this is the last quarter before we'll know more about Switch 2. But like Switch 2 is probably the biggest catalyst for the next year in the video game industry. And if they don't crush it on that front, I think they're going to be in trouble. But yeah, I don't know. Anyone else have any questions? I'm sorry that this is a more boring quarter, but you know, good companies actually have conference calls and talk to analysts and stuff, and that's not what we're dealing with here. Yeah, this is a 200 PE ratio company right now, valued at $12 billion. Yep, I completely agree, Tantrum. If they didn't announce that capital raising, I think the stock was going to be at around 120, which was the previous all-time high. It was going to get there in like a day or two, and then they threw cold water on it. So for me, that was strike one. Strike two was the second secondary offering they did, and strike three was the shuttering of Game Informer. You don't anyone who thinks that shutting down Game Informer was a good idea, you don't know shit about what the video game industry values, because the cover of Game Informer was such a big deal to every developer and every publisher and every PR person that just killing it without even trying to sell it is absolutely stupid. So that's where I got off the train. I sold my largest positions in GameStop. I still have a few shares in other accounts. I have some call options in other accounts, but I am not I do not fuck with this team. They fucked me over, so I'm out. That's kind of my attitude towards it. Keith Gill, Roaring Kitty, was a billionaire for about 30 minutes. The Friday, that Friday in May, when it hit 64.83 during the day. I think it was even at 80. It was at 80 in pre-market. What I don't understand is Ryan Cohen himself owns shares. Like, why would you screw yourself over like that? It's stupid. It's very dumb. And it means that he is not acting in the best interest of shareholders. He's acting in the best interest of himself. And people need to get that through their head. He does not give a fuck about you. And it's just funny, because we all started with this whole mission was to take down billionaire hedge fund managers. It was like, hey, we can ruin Wall Street if we all pull our money together. And now what are these people doing? They're worshiping a billionaire's every move. It's just, I'm happily out of this stock right now in any meaningful way. But it's just, the timing was terrible, and he did it twice, provided very little explanation for what they're going to do with the cash, is not transparent, doesn't do quarterly conference calls. Like, if anyone thinks that this guy is good, like, no, this is not what a good CEO does. I'm sorry. This is what someone who acts in their own best interest does. And he's done that thing. Boy, does this sound like a trend, guys? Billionaire acting in their own best interest, pulling the wool over people's eyes and having the sheep vote, maybe vote for them or hand them over more money. I don't know. Kind of sounds familiar. Maybe they should get some red hats from GameStop. Next merch drop. Anyway, I think that's it, right? I don't have anything else to talk about. I think the folks at home are good. Yeah, he lived long enough to see himself become the villain, no doubt. But I never really thought he was the hero. The hero of this story, and he's kind of an anti-hero, was Roaring Kitty. And I think Ryan saw how much attention he was getting in May and got jealous of him. And then he did some really stupid shit, like claiming he was trans and changing his picture to be a woman version of him. I just don't fuck with Ryan Cohen, period. But I don't hate anyone who owns GameStop. If you're trying to make money, go for it. I hope you make all the money in the world. I'm going to tell you why I don't think it's going to happen. and why I don't have any meaningful investment in it right now. But I do have some, just in case. I call it idiot insurance. When I get out of a position, I'll buy some call options in it just in case. And I usually go long dated. Yeah, man, you were real close in after hours, dude. You got like within $3 of your high. And it's not like I think the stock's going to collapse 60% here either. I just think it's kind of dead money, which I hate. I hate dead money. I have experience in owning things that are dead money too. It's called Nintendo. The last 2 years have kind of been dead money at Nintendo. But yeah, that'll do it. Thanks for watching, everybody. I do a monthly show called Game Trader Live where I look at stock charts and talk about investing and stuff. So if you want to stop by, the next episode's going to be December 31st at 4 p.m. So yeah, give us a follow here if you haven't. We're also on all these social media platforms that are above my head. This video will also show up on our Shacknews VODs channel in the next little bit. But yeah, as always, thank you for watching. Manage your risk, and have a good day. Bye-bye.